Whatever American feelings towards Iran, official security here was intense for President Khamenei's delegation. The first time a member of Iran's leadership has visited the United States since the revolution. As President Khamenei entered the General Assembly, supporters of the revolution greeted him wildly from the balcony. But absent were Iraq, the US Secretary of State George Shultz and the British Foreign Secretary Sir Geoffrey Howe, who pointedly remained across the road in the delegation hotel, outraged by yesterday's Iranian attack on a British ship in the Gulf.
Because it would be intolerable for me to sit in the hall of the United Nations, which is devoted to the cause of peace, listening to a speech by the head of a government whose vessel has very recently attacked a British flagged ship.
Of the General Assembly, I have the honor to welcome to the United Nations the President of the Islamic Republic of Iran, His Excellency Hojat al-Islam Sayyid Ali Khamenei.
The 15 Security Council nations had looked to President Khamenei for a clear statement. Would Iran finally announce acceptance or rejection of Resolution 598, mandating the United Nations to end the Gulf War? There was no such statement, dashing hopes that the UN can mediate to end the war. Instead, there was a passionate, vitriolic tirade against one of the key powers behind the United Nations resolution, the United States. The text, prepared some time ago, and ornately bound in book form. The Iranian response to yesterday's American military action in the Gulf, merely a last-minute addition which sealed the uncompromising tone of the address.
American television stations announced yesterday that the United States battleships fired at this ship while it was laying mines in the waters. And thereby, they, as usual, told a pack of lies to the American people. But I declare here that the ship was a merchant vessel called Iran, not a military speedboat. This is a beginning for a series of events, the bitter consequences of which shall not be restricted to the Persian Gulf. And the United States, as the initiator of the trouble, shall bear responsibility for all ensuing events.
At which point the American delegation walked out, presumably under clear instructions if the Iranian president made such a statement. And as they left, they heard Iran's warning to Washington.
I declare here, very unambiguously, that the United States shall receive a proper response for this abominable act. I must here announce to the world, and especially to the great people of the United States, that the threatening military presence of the United States in the Persian Gulf is yet another clear manifestation of the American regime's hostility towards the Iranian people.
On top of accusations against the United States, the Iranian president then dismissed any idea that Iran had faith in the UN Security Council to end the Gulf War. He called it a paper factory, which since the start of the war in 1980 had failed to honor its charter obligations to take measures against acts of aggression, in this case against Iraq.
If the Security Council had condemned Iraq for starting the war, and later for starting the so-called War of the Cities, and later for attacking ships, today the United States would not dare threaten international peace and security so openly in spite of world public opinion.
Well, the speech from the Iranian president was a mixture of defiance and contempt, coupled with the action taken yesterday in attacking a British ship and in the laying of mines. Nothing could be more calculated to lead the United Nations to the next step, namely the imposition of measures specifically an arms embargo.
You said it was a mixed speech. Did you see any cause for optimism in what he had to say?
I think it was a depressing speech because it was monotonously dismissive of all the efforts being made here and elsewhere to bring this conflict to an end.
So the pressure is now on from Britain and America for an arms embargo, stage 2 of the UN plan. To achieve Security Council approval could take several weeks, perhaps months. But officials said Britain would be well pleased if Sir Geoffrey Howe leaves here on Friday evening with agreement from all 5 permanent Security Council nations, especially China and the Soviet Union, that an arms embargo is in principle the way ahead.